Good morning, everybody. Let's talk basketball. So, when you're on offense, there are 9, but really 7 places you can stand on the basketball court. We have the dead on 3, 2 wings, 2 corners, what is commonly called in the NBA right now the dunker. So, there's 2 dunkers. And then traditionally, teams have enjoyed using the elbows as well, but this is slowly fading out of style, and this is going to be somewhat emblematic of the entire point. The elbows clog the driving lanes for the wing, the top of the key player, and the wing player. You can see if there's a player here, they're driving into their own guy, which modern basketball has tried to limit as much as possible. And I guess that goes into the whole point of what good basketball teams try to do nowadays is they try to make as much space as possible for their players to get to the basket. This is essentially what has spurred the three-point revolution. You hear a lot about 3 and D role players, stretch 5s. These are all players that traditionally would have played inside the three-point lane, close to the basket, that are now playing outside, giving the floor more space. And on any given possession, a player should really, let me get the baseline or the dunkers back. You should get to a spot and stay there until something happens. What is something that can happen? Well, somebody can drive, or a defender can fall asleep and you can cut. Or realistically, you're extracting as much value as possible in a vanilla regular situation just by standing in one of these spots and waiting for something to happen. It typically takes only about 5 seconds for something to happen. So 24-second shot clock, typically things happen relatively fast. So if you're wondering where to go or what to do on offense, especially at the start of a possession, you need to get to a spot and stay there until something happens, because here you're extracting the most value possible. So now let's do a little experiment. Let's assume we have 5 good guy players, that's us, around the three-point line against 5 good defenders, okay? Let's assume that these defenders are so good that they neutralize every single offensive attack we can possibly do. Like, there's no advantage whatsoever. Let's say this is the ball right here. We'll put B for ball. And we'll assume that our defender is so good that he's stonewalled here. He doesn't have any dribble moves that can get past him, and it's the same thing for all the other defensive matchups. We can't swing the ball anywhere and create an advantage by just ourselves. So what we have to do now is we have to create an advantage, and we'll show how we do that right now. The simplest and arguably most effective method of creating an advantage in basketball is with the pick and roll. You'll notice that this little symbol right there means pick. And I think it's a good question to ask is, like, why do players run the pick and roll? Like, why do teams do this? The most important part is the pick. What we want is to get this player to get a step or an advantage on his defender so that traditionally he can get to the basket. And once again, if the floor is spaced, then he has ideally an open path to the rim. Or maybe we'll get into the other things that can happen in a second that will result in the reads out of the pick and roll. But this is the ideal scenario, is the pick works and the ball handler springs to the basket. This is good offense. Oh, I forgot to mention in the last video why we use bigger players to set the pick. And the reason for that is because the main purpose of the pick is to free the ball handler. And typically, the larger players on the court have broader shoulders. They create more area for the ball handler to get free. Like, this is why in the Utah Jazz 90s pick and roll, it was Karl Malone setting picks for John Stockton and not Jeff Hornacek setting screens for John Stockton. They wanted to free Stockton to get to the basket. There are examples in which you do smaller players, but this is more advanced stuff. This is the bread and butter, most classic type of creating advantage in basketball. And especially in 2K, like, if you have the badge for brick wall, you get better animations that give the ball handler more time. Like if I have red, what's called brick wall, then I create like a second or two advantage for the ball handler, which if everyone's spaced enough, that literally gives you a free lane to the basket. So if the pick and roll is working, eventually the defense is going to adjust. And just so we remember from last time, the pick and roll working essentially means that the pick is freeing the ball handler open for a run at the basket. The most classic adjustment for this, and once again, we're picking the ball handler's man. Like if everybody's guarding their matchup, the pick is supposed to make separation between the ball handler and his matchup, which gives him a second or two, like a step, to get to the basket. The most classic way of responding to the ball handler springing towards the basket is the hedge, which means that the screener's man will actually step out a little bit and try to impede the ball handler's path to the basket. This opens up, the first read in the pick and roll, and it's literally in the name, and this is the roll. The big man will roll, because now the big man's man is no longer guarding him, so he'll roll to the basket and receive some type of pass. Once again, typically this defender here can help, but typically this defender is too small to stop a center from rolling to the basket. And once again, if everyone is standing and spacing the floor, the other defenders can't help. Or if they do help, and we'll get to that in a second in greater detail, then the point guard can spray to the shooters, but they have to be standing in a place where they can catch it, feet set, ready to go. And now finally, we'll get to the most basic read out of the pick and roll. The final basic read is, once again, we've set the pick, ball handler goes, let's go to the other row here. Big man hedges to stop the ball handler. Our big man rolls, pass received, so we'll have the ball right here. Once again, this continues to work, creating an advantage. Eventually, the defense will make an adjustment to try to stop it. And this is the counter argument for, if I just stand in the corner, I'll never get the ball. It's not true. First, you have to create an advantage that the defense has to adjust to. In this instance, let's assume that the empty side, or we'll call it the strong side, the one with no other offensive players there, the defender is called tagging the roller. You'll basically give the roll man a bump, which gives enough time for maybe his defender to come back and guard him. But this allows for the spray to the corner. And that's a great shot. And that's basically our final read, because after this, let's say it doesn't work. Let's say we run the pick and roll, and the defense defends it perfectly. The hedge is good, the pass comes in, the roller tags, kick out to the corner, and then the defender gets back and guards the shot. And so no shot is up. At this point, now we can just play basketball. So, in my opinion, those three simple reads on the pick and roll is good enough to get us to purple in terms of our rank. And it would be very satisfying to me if we were able to do that consistently. As a matter of fact, I don't want to play if we can't even do that consistently. It's just fucking dumb. But this would be post that, and now we can just play basketball. We can go back out to a 5-out type system, and if the ball's got kicked out here after the pick and roll, and let's assume I was a screener, I spaced out to the other corner. Let's say Tyler was in this corner initially, he lifted up to this wing. Christian was in this wing initially, he lifted up to the middle, and the ball handler, let's assume it was Mario, after going through the pick and roll, he spotted up on this wing. Now Zahar can just ISO for a second, which he will typically do anyway. If we find no advantage, now the ball can swing. And honestly, besides Zahar, because he's especially good at this wing or at this corner, the typical places you want to attack on the basketball court are the two wings. Typically the top is for the pick and roll. And the reason for that is because, we'll draw it again, the pick and roll can divide the court in half. And that's why we run it at the top. Running at the wing, you don't have nearly as much space. It's all right, but when you run it on the wing, you have to go this way. You don't want to set the pick this way, because then you're just running into the baseline out of bounds. But now we have to talk about when to cut. And I guess I'll do another video while I release it. And I guess this relates back to, I said, you have to spot up until something happens. Like yesterday, we played against a team that stole the ball from us 23 times, and it's because they were playing the passing lanes. If somebody is playing your passing lane, that's when you back cut them. Like, if the ball is here and this defender is playing up, denying the regular swing pass, this is actually now when you cut. And let's talk about cutting for a second, because people cut really badly. You should be squeezing the RT trigger when you cut, because you are trying to go from a spot that we spot up at all the way through the paint. If you do not get the ball in the cut, you do not hang out in the paint. You cut all the way through. That's a good cut. Straight through RT. Once you hit the other side, now you should release the RT button. And if you want to, which by the way, if this cut occurs, now this player swings up. This player swings up. This player swings up. The ball handler can now take the other corner. Like, it's a circle. If you see somebody running this way and you're here, you lift up. If you're here and you see this person lifting up, you lift up. If you're here and you see this, it's a very nice circular motion, which, by the way, these small steps are not to be sprinted because you need to save your sprint for cuts. Everyone's always sprinting when they're completely about to die and go to the hospital. You need to save your energy. When you're just walking along the three-point line, which is what you should be doing, just walk. Don't sprint. Think about how you would be in a real basketball game. You would not be sprinting, you're just casually going from corner to wing. And that's the other thing. You should be sprinting on your cuts, and you have to go all the way through. If the cut fails, you sprint through to the other three-point side, take a second, and then reevaluate. And finally, we have to talk about just simple human nature, and we'll call it processing. Processing is the idea of, it's like your cognitive load on the court. It's like, how much of the information can you take in and then spit out a good decision? Like, I, for example, I think I had to apologize for this a couple of times last night. Sometimes I can get over-processed. I roll to the basket, and I'm so focused on deciding on whether I should do an RT dunk or an RT less layup that I don't even realize that I'm being double-teamed and now the corner is wide open. And I have to say, sorry, I missed you. That's because I didn't have enough processing power to kick it out. I didn't have enough processing power to make the right decision. I got overwhelmed. When you are constantly, let's say you make 10 cuts of possession. Let's say you're open for 5 of them. You are making a nightmare scenario for the ball handler, trying to take in all this information. The ball handler should have the very simple reads. Do I try to drive by my man? Do I wait for a pick? Do I see one cutter after a good advantage has been set? Like, this defender cheated over and now I see the cut? Like, you have to give the ball handler some fucking slack here, guys. Like, we're not supercomputers. We're just regular people. Give Tyler, like, a reasonable look. Like, give them an easy thing to think about. Okay, and finally, let's just clear up some things I brought up before. So, first of all, the pick and roll can also be used to generate a three-point shot for the ball handler. This is your Dame Lillard, Steph Curry. This has actually become the modern way of running the pick and roll. As a matter of fact, it's probably used less often to get the ball handler to the basket and more often to get them a clean shot at 3. And in terms of who should set the pick, the Charlotte Hornets this year have actually been running a lot of picks with Con Knipple screening. And if you don't know, Con Knipple is about a 6'5" shooting guard. This is a much more modern way of looking at the pick and roll. You do a guard-to-guard screen. And the reason why we have to hold off on this is because this is a significantly more difficult read to make. Because the screener who, let's say this is the shooting guard and is going to screen, when you set that screen, you have like 5 or 6 different reads to make. First of all, you have to be able to roll towards the basket. This is very rarely open. The second read is to actually occupy a mid-range space and take a shot there. Then you could also, what we call ghost the screen, which is when you go to set the screen, you don't do anything at all and actually just sprint right past him and spot up here. That's another read. You can make contact with the screen and spot up here. Like, it's a very complex read, and another reason why this is less effective is because, like, when you're running, and this was very popular with Golden State in the 20 teens, and particularly against the Rockets, if you're running a pick and roll with two people who are like equal sized, say James Harden and PJ Tucker, they're both about 6'6", the two guards can just switch it. Like, the two defenders can just switch the pick and roll, but you've made no advantage. This is very different than a center big pick and roll. Like, if a center sets a pick for a point guard, who's typically, I don't know, we'll call it about 6'3", the center is 6'11", if the two defenders switch, now we have a massive mismatch. We have a baby guarding a center, and we have a big doofus guarding a guard. You know. And so, yeah, guys, this is how basketball is played and has been played for, like, the last 2026, 10 years, 13 years, 15 years, and they do it because it works. It's not like they're running some shit that doesn't work. If we can't do this, then I don't see the point in playing anymore. Like, because then we're just randomly, we leave it all to chaos. It's just random. Like, if we get ass teammates, then we're just going to out-ass them, or they'll out-ass us. I guess I'm not sure which one was the appropriate way of saying that. But, like, every single good team beats the fucking piss out of us. And I'm not going to do that. Like, that's just retarded. Like, I'm not here to beat up on the wimpy kids and have the bigger kids put me in a fucking swirly. This is stupid. And we're only losing because we have absolutely no structure. So, recap. Where to go? You have 5 3-point lanes. You also have the 2 dunker spots, here and here. And typically, you want to stand still, wait for the play to unfold, and then you do stuff. And typically, you cut in a circle. Cut all the way through, from the left side all the way to the right. Do not hang out in the paint. Cut all the way through. And pass the fucking ball every now and again. Jesus Christ, sometimes you guys hold the ball for so long. All right, have a blessed day. Love you guys. Okay, so I just rewatched all the videos. I'm going to try to recap everything and put it a little bit more concisely. So, at the start of a possession, right? Let's say we're inbounding the ball on the other side of the court, right? And you're not either inbounding or receiving the inbound pass. You need to run to a spot and stay there. By the time the ball crosses the half-court line, you should be in a spot and ready to receive a pass, not moving. You can almost think of it like the children's game, 4 corners. Like, when the kid is done counting to 10 and he's about to say a corner, you have to be in a corner already. You cannot be in between, still deciding where to go. Pick a spot and stay there. Secondly, the reason why the guard-to-guard pick and rolls are less effective is because, first and foremost, the guard is typically smaller. They don't have the brick wall badge. So they don't create the whole point of the pick and roll, which is to create an advantage for the ball handler. Like, you just don't get the same space or separation from your matchup that you get from a bigger player setting the screen. And secondly, why it's not, I guess there's 3 total reasons. A, you don't create nearly enough separation. B, if the defenders are even remotely smart, they can just switch the pick and roll and there's no advantage made between the 2 guards. And finally, for it to actually work, it actually takes a lot of advanced, like, structure and reads. Like, it's something that, like, is only now becoming popular in the league. Because it's kind of difficult to make it work. Cut hard and all the way through to the other side. Cut. And spend as little time in the paint as possible. RT all the way through. And finally, like, back on the topic of processing, when you have 5 players who are all doing their own chaotic thing with no team concept, it's impossible for the ball handler to make a good read. And it's not just the ball handler. If, let's say, I'm on the wing right here, and I have this person literally just buzzing back and forth all over the place, is he going to cut? Is he going to run towards me? Now, I don't know, should I lift up to the wing? Should I go down to the corner? Should I cut? Like, if this guy's being mad confusing, and everybody is being mad confusing, then it's impossible for anybody to make a right decision, or you leave it purely to chance. Like, if you give yourself 10,000 options every single possession, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of doing the right one or the best one. We have to limit the amount of things that we see to like improve our cognition and allow ourselves to process the information. Like, if we just follow like a simple wheel or circular concept of cutting, let me erase that. Like, contrast what we just saw before with 5 people just literally randomly running around in circles, creating an absolute nightmare in terms of making the right decision, with like a simple observation. Like, the person on this corner notices that this guy is cutting. He's now going to occupy my space. I have to lift up. This player realizes that this player is lifting up. I have to lift up. And it's like a circle. Everybody moves to a new spot. This decreases the processing power needed to make the right decision. Like, now the ball handler can, and also when there's only one cut, the ball handler can more easily read if it's a good cut or not, and whether they'll pass in the ball or hold it.